Locked On Podcast Network and BetOnline present NFL Key Predictions. The local team experts of Locked On NFL give you the inside knowledge on the biggest games of the week and betting advice from the field's leading experts. You are Locked On NFL Key Predictions.
Hey everyone, and welcome into NFL Key Predictions. I'm Jordan Black. As the NFL enters Week 8, the 2022 playoff landscape, and for many, the wild card picture, is starting to come into focus. The NFC West is playing a week-to-week game of musical chairs, while the Packers look to keep themselves in earshot of the division-leading Vikings. We kick off our coverage in Minnesota, where the Cardinals look to build off their Week 7 success. The Vikings now statistically don't jump off the page, but as we've seen in the NFL this year, combine consistent quarterback play with some electric playmakers, and there are wins to be found each and every week. Minnesota is first in average field position and has managed to make up for the defense's lackluster performance. The return of DeAndre Hopkins certainly makes the Cardinals a more dangerous offensive team, but they've yet to score a first quarter touchdown this year. Cliff Kingsbury has provided uninspired early play calling and will need to get on the same page with Kyler Murray if Arizona wants to win this matchup. Alex Clancy from Locked On Cardinals and Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings provide the preview for this contest.
All right, Alex. Vikings favored by 3.5 at home. Over under right now, as of this recording, and I believe it's been fluctuating at BetOnline, is at 49. What do you got?
I don't know. I mean, like, so like when you said, like, there's so many, this is such a litmus test game for so many different reasons for each team. Like, if the Cardinals move to 4-4, their season is kind of saved. If they go to 3-5, it could be a fire sale at who knows before the trade deadline. We'll see if Minnesota is legitimate. They beat a team. I mean, the Cardinals are world beaters this year, but the hook is what gets me. Like, if it were 2.5, I take Minnesota without thinking about it. 3.5 makes me think I'm going to give the points. I'll lay the points and I'll say Minnesota's going to win by at least 4, just because I haven't seen it from the Cardinals in a team that wasn't completely decimated by injury. I just haven't seen it. Mm-hmm. And the over-under, like, the more
it's high, but I don't think it's high enough.
Yeah, I mean, but the more points scored, I feel like a shootout benefits the Cardinals. Minnesota, we've seen it, can win very ugly, and I don't think the Cardinals are built to win ugly. So I'm going to take the under, because if it's the over, I think the Cardinals have a much better chance of winning. So to make my first point more stable, I'm taking minus 3.5 and taking the under of 49. What about you, Luke?
Yeah, and so that line implies a 26-23 about Vikings victory, right? That would just about satisfy it. I am taking an over on that, and I'm also taking the Vikings minus 3.5. Here's how I see this one going. The Vikings have struggled a lot with containing mobile quarterbacks. Justin Fields ran for a ton on them. Skylar Thompson ran all around him. Teddy Bridgewater isn't even mobile. He ran all around him. They have struggled a lot with that contain and their pass rushes. Their pass rushes are probably the furthest thing from a completed, like, from its final form. Their 4-man rushes and their blitzes and stuff are just such a work in progress that I think, like, take what, I don't care what Kyler Murray's rushing over is, take it. He's gonna get 90. Like, it's insane. And I think that's going to be what this game comes down to, is if the Vikings can pull that problem together, I think they can keep up with the rest. DeAndre Hopkins will get his, you'll get your production, and they're going to give up points. They give up points to everybody. But I think they'll be able to keep up at least. And that's why I feel pretty good about the Vikings in this one, because of the stuff that you said. If they don't have like a really dynamic interior pass rush, I mean, look, Aaron Donalds and Fletcher Coxes are going to have a game, but if you don't have that, it gets a lot harder to get pressure on Cousins. And if you don't have pressure on Cousins and you can just sit back there you'll lose to everybody. Right. Yeah. And especially if the other weakness of your team is cornerback, that just isn't the recipe. Like, that's just the recipe. You need a different recipe for these Vikings. It's just a different way that everybody has shown to beat them, unless you can find a brand new way to beat the Vikings, which, sure, it's week 7, right? That's not completely outside the realm of possibility at all. But I feel pretty good about the Vikings in this one. I don't feel so confident. I'm not guaranteeing or anything, but I feel pretty confident in covering the 3.5. I feel the most confident, though, in Kyler Murray rushing over. He is going to convert a stupid 3rd and 19 on the ground with his legs I bet your mortgage on that. It's just what happens to the Vikings. But I want one more prediction from you before we wrap this up. I'm sure your listeners have heard this way too many times, but mine haven't. Does Cliff Kingsbury make it to the season's end as head coach of the Arizona Cardinals?
We're having a good time here. We're talking 20 and a half minutes, and you got to bring this mess up. You and I, Luke, we get to talk once or twice a year, you bastard.
Does he make, or is it Black Monday, or is he fired at Thanksgiving?
No. Like, here's the thing: this is what I've said, and I'll continue to say. It doesn't have anything to do with the money that he's owed or their win-loss record.
Never.
Now. It's the ego of the owner, Michael Bidwell. He will not admit that he's wrong and pull the Band-Aid off and pull the ripcord before that contract extension even comes into play, which starts at the beginning of next year. So I still hold true what I tweeted out, and I will leave this for you Vikings fans, what I think over here. What I tweeted out when I found out that Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim got extended this offseason, I tweeted out Kyler Murray should request a trade today. And I still hold true that Cliff Kingsbury is holding Kyler Murray back. Will he get fired before the end of the season? No. Should he? If they lose the next 2 games, he should have got fired in 2019 before he got hired. So yes. Should he? Yes. Will he? No.
2025 starting Viking quarterback Kyler Murray. You heard it here first from Alex Clancy.
From Locked On Bets, here's Lee Sterling.
This is Lee Sterling from Locked On Bets and Paramount Sports with your BetOnline prediction for the game between the Minnesota Vikings at home laying 3 points against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, only Philadelphia with a mobile quarterback ran for more than 135 yards on Arizona's defense this year. And Minnesota quarterback Kirk Cousins, not very mobile. He's more of a statue in the pocket. Minnesota, 5-1 straight up, surprise to everyone, but 2-4 against the spread and only plus 21 points in point differential with that 5-1 record. Arizona star running back DeAndre Hopkins is back and looking dominant like his old self. And I'm just watching this Minnesota secondary. Their cornerbacks are really slow. The Vikings 29th in pass defense this year and 26th in defensive yards allowed. Arizona, they seem to do really well on the road. 10-2 straight up and 9-3 against the spread the last 12 regular season games. I'm going with the wrong team favored. Let's go with the Arizona Cardinals winning outright 26-23. For more, subscribe to Locked On Bets wherever you get your podcasts.
The Rams have struggled against the 49ers, having won just one of their last 8 meetings. The division is very much up for grabs here, but a loss for the defending champs could make for a difficult second half of the season. The 49ers have already picked up a win over their division rival, and after making his initial debut last week, it's expected that Christian McCaffrey will be heavily involved in both the passing and running game this week. Getting back to 500 will, of course, help in getting San Francisco back on track. Travis Rogers from Locked On Rams and Brian Peacock from Locked On 49ers have the game preview for us.
How do you see this one going, Travis? Is this a game that the Rams can get themselves over 500 here against the 49ers?
I think they can, but I think a lot of things need to go right for them. I think that the reappearance of Brian Allen, like I mentioned, has to bring some stability along that offensive line, and maybe it will when you get your center back. The communication might improve. Then maybe having Jackson in a more natural position at left tackle as opposed to right guard may help a little bit. Van Jefferson, who I mentioned a week ago, maybe he comes back and adds a little bit of a spark. Allen Robinson continues to get better, which I also mentioned, but this is the bad matchup for them. This is the one thing that Sean McVay, this is his 6th season in the NFL. This is the puzzle he cannot figure out. This is the puzzle that gives him more trouble than anything else. Even Bill Belichick, when he got a second look at that, a lot better the second time around. You look at all the other guys in the conference, you look at the other teams in the division, Sean McVay does not struggle he doesn't struggle much, and he really doesn't struggle if he gets to see it a second time. But the 49ers are the one team that he just cannot quite seem to figure out. So I think that if everything breaks right for the Rams, and it is a relatively low-scoring game, no pick sixes, no turnovers, no big plays for the 49ers players, and they can keep this somewhere in the mid to high teens, I think they have a chance. But if they throw the ball to the wrong team or give up another big play, I think it's going to look a lot like what we've seen, which is probably something like 24-13 49ers.
Christian McCaffrey, a huge key in this one. Can they get him going? Is he ready after, just whatever, 8-9 days to have a full workload in the offense? And so that's going to be a lot of fun, and especially important if Deebo Samuel's not able to go. I do like the 49ers in a bounce back fashion after a bad game last week, especially on the defensive side of the ball, to come back and come correct against the Rams here in week number 8. I like the 49ers by less. I like them by 3. I think this is going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be a fun game, and really important for those 49ers fans to show up big like they always do in Los Angeles, because if it's that home environment and everyone's getting excited and you can feel that on defense and on offense, and get Christian McCaffrey working, could be a little demoralizing for those Rams, and that's an important one. But it's interesting. You said something about McVay and Shanahan. There's so many coaches in the league from that tree. Almost every team plays a lot of games against those teams. I think it's making life more difficult for both Shanahan and McVay, but they're so familiar with each other. I think it doesn't even factor in anymore because they already knew each other before anyway.
Yeah, no, they come from the same place. They studied under the same people, and I think they have a lot of the very same philosophies. And styles make fights, whether it's boxing or whether it's football games. There's just sometimes one guy gives you a much harder time than somebody else. That might not be they're better or worse. It's a tougher matchup for you. I definitely think that's San Francisco. I got one for you real quick. Okay. I'll put you on the spot. Here we are going into week 8 in the season. Do the Seattle Seahawks win this division or not? Because I still think it's either San Francisco or LA that wins it. I still don't think that Seattle, they're playing well. Geno Smith is much better than I thought he would be, but that's another one that feels it because everybody's super excited about them. They're 4-3 too. It's not like they're playing perfect football. Do the Seahawks win the division?
Right. No, I don't think the Seahawks win the division. They've been a nice story this far. I think similarly to the New York Giants, maybe they'll come back down to earth a little bit, although they're not far from earth as it is at 4-3. Anyways, it's just that the Rams and the 49ers have not been playing as well, maybe as they should have. And as the 49ers did last year, I expect a run to come. And really with the Arizona Cardinals, even when just seeing Kyler Murray with his security blanket and DeAndre Hopkins back again, they're right in there too. So this is probably going to be a really close division all the way to the end. And I don't think the Seahawks are going to have enough. And I don't think the Arizona Cardinals have enough on defense. So that means Rams got to figure some things out. Maybe they add somebody else before the deadline, and the 49ers need to be healthy. And then I think one of those two teams, again, are going to be the representatives.
What do you think the number is? Is it 10? Does 10 win the division, or does somebody have to get to 11?
I would be shocked if a team in the NFC West wins more than 10 at this point.
Yeah, me too.
And I think that's plenty. Yep, I think 10 is plenty, and 9 with all those crazy tiebreakers would probably right now, which the Rams would have because they've had the bye week already, and they're at 3-3. They would have the tiebreaker, and the 49ers would be next because of tiebreakers for the 8 seed currently as things are. And of course, there's a lot of football to play, so it should be a heck of a lot of fun. I'm actually kind of sad, Travis. I'm not going to get to talk to you again unless we'll have to do it for the NFC Championship game.
I was going to say, I thought there would only be 2 last year, and yet here we were doing it a third time in the NFC Championship. So never say never. But in the event that that's true, always a pleasure.
Now from Locked On Bets, here's Lee Sterling.
This is Lee Sterling with Locked On Bets and Paramount Sports with your BetOnline prediction for the game between the San Francisco 49ers laying the 1.5 points at the LA Rams. Now, the first game between these two teams, the 49ers sacked Matthew Stafford 7 times. Well, you're thinking, okay, they got the bye week, they can figure it out. The last couple weeks, the Rams have lost 6 offensive linemen. The matchup is not good at all there, and San Francisco is getting back some of their star linemen, especially Nick Bosa last week. Now, with a full week to integrate and game plan and add Christian McCaffrey at running back, he was only there a couple days when he played last week in the game. Look out. This San Francisco team is going to be dangerous running and throwing the football. And if you think home field is an advantage, it's not. SoFi Stadium, the home team this year, 2-8 against the spread. Hey, I love Matthew Stafford. He won a Super Bowl last year in Cooper Kupp. But other than that, there's just nothing and no talent to that offense here. I'm going with San Francisco. They win by double digits, 30-20 over the LA Rams. For more, subscribe to Locked On Bets wherever you get your podcasts.
With 24/7 professional monitoring when a threat is detected, SimpliSafe's monitoring professionals promptly contact you and dispatch first responders to your home even if you're away or unable to respond. Their 24/7 professional monitoring costs under $1 a day. That's less than half the cost of ADT's traditional professional installed plans. Their monitoring experts use proprietary response technology to visually confirm when a break-in is real, so you can get the highest priority police dispatch. Don't miss this chance to save big when you protect your home with the best. Get 40% off your order when you visit simplysafe.com/lockedonnfl today. Customize the perfect system for your home today. The Giants have a bye week coming and not a moment too soon. The injuries have piled up this year, but you wouldn't know it based on their 6-1 record. New York has seen the value of coaching each and every week. Plus, Daniel Jones secured the NFC Offensive Player of the Week nod this past week and has now led 5 game-winning drives this season. Now, the Seahawks are also enjoying quality quarterback play from veteran signal caller Geno Smith. While DK Metcalf might miss out on the action, Tyler Lockett and rookie running back Kenneth Walker III provide more than enough firepower to make for a fun battle in Seattle. Patricia Trania from Locked On Giants joins Corbin Smith from Locked On Seahawks to break this game down for us.
Let's talk keys to victory, what each team needs to do to get a win. These teams are very similar in a lot of ways. I see a mere identity in a lot of ways, not just in roster construction, but just the way the coaches have changed the culture and things of that nature. What do the Giants need to do to go to Seattle, one of the toughest places in the NFL, to win? It seems like they've gotten their home field advantage back some this season. What is it going to take for them to go into Lumen Field and win?
Discipline. You know, the 12th man is very famous outside of Seattle, and how that can actually rattle some of the visiting teams. You know, they can get loud. And I've been in that stadium, by the way. I know they can get loud. So the Giants been practicing with silent counts and hand signals and all that good stuff. But you got to be disciplined, you know, especially when the Giants are on offense. No false starts, no stupid penalties as a result of the noise. Play disciplined ball, number one. That's first and foremost. The other thing that I think the Giants have to do is just basically stick with what's been working, which has been running the ball. You know, get the ball in Saquon Barkley's hands. And if Saquon gets shut down, maybe give the ball to Daniel Jones, who has shown that he can run the ball, you know, and be that backup running back, so to speak. You know, I still get a little queasy when I see Daniel Jones take off with the ball in his hands, because I know, you know, historically speaking, he's gotten hurt as a runner. But look, his legs have been an asset. So, you know, why take that away? So that's going to be something that obviously I want to see them do is be able to run the ball, because like I said, I don't know how well this passing game is going to hold up against that defensive secondary and without Bellinger and the changes on the offensive line. So discipline and running the ball, being able to run the ball in some capacity. Defensively, I think a key is going to be stopping Walker. Like I said, he scares me. This kid is averaging, I think, almost 4 yards per contact. 4 yards after contact on his runs. Got to wrap him up. And the tackling hasn't been as sharp. But like I said, for this Giants team, they got to be a little bit better, a lot better, actually, if they're going to stop him.
I look at this game from Seattle's perspective, and yeah, they've got athletes. They've got playmakers like Ken Walker III. Marquise Goodwin is still a low 4.3 guy, and he can fly. Tyler Lockett can still run. They've got 3 really solid tight ends that can do damage as receivers. They also are solid blockers. I mean, there's a lot of weapons, but this game is going to boil down to how the guys in the trenches play. And you can say that really about any game, but I'm especially going to emphasize that for this one, because I mentioned it earlier. Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, they scare the daylights out of me. Those 2 guys, I mean, Russell Wilson was the quarterback then. The offense was a little bit different than what they're doing now with Geno Smith. But still, those 2, they, from the first snap to the last one, were feasting on Seattle's offensive line. They couldn't run the football that game to save their lives. They tried to drop back and throw like 50 times. That was a recipe for disaster with those 2 getting pressure up the middle. Seattle cannot have that happen again. They're going to have to be able to run the ball in this football game and play some keep away to an extent to try to keep their defense fresh. So that's all going to boil down to the offensive line. Can you open up those run lanes so that Ken Walker III can do what he's done the last couple weeks, get to the second level, work against those linebackers for the Giants. That is not a strength for their defense. Ken Walker III can make those guys miss, can break through their tackles, but you've got to get him to the second level. So they got to be able to finish up there. And can you protect Geno Smith well enough that he is able to get the football out? He's distributed the football as well as any quarterback in the league this year, especially to his tight ends. He's getting everybody involved, but he's not going to be able to do that if there's interior pressure immediately that's getting to him, or Thibodeau's flying off the edge coming after him. They're going to have to be able to protect him. And on the defensive side of the ball, this one's really simple for me. Make Daniel Jones beat you with his arm. I think they have to shut down the run game. It has to be priority 1, 2, and 3. And when you're playing a mobile quarterback, it makes it a little bit tougher because you've got that element, the design runs, the boots and stuff like that you have to worry about. The extended pass plays where receivers can separate and they can get explosives. Those are things you have to worry about with mobile quarterbacks. But if they can find a way to bottle up Saquon Barkley, contain Daniel Jones, don't let him burn you with his legs and say, look, you need to show us that you can win as a passer. In the past, that would have been a laughable thing for the Seahawks because their defensive struggles the last couple of years have mainly been the passing defense. But get in a position where Darrell Taylor and Uchenna Nwosu can pin their ears back, Boye Mafe, let him get after the quarterback, rush after Daniel Jones. When he gets under pressure, he still can make bad decisions. Has not had to worry about that as much this year. That's going to be the key for the Seahawks. Make this an offense that has to beat you passing the football. And as you've said, can they actually do that remains to be seen, especially with the injuries they've got at receiver, some of the losses they've already had. The Seahawks, that should be what they are betting on, that if we can force you to beat us passing the football, we can make Daniel Jones make some bad throws and get a couple turnovers at home. Our chances of winning this game go up exponentially.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tight game here. I mean, I could see this one coming down to a field goal. And I know we're going to talk about, predictions in just a second, but this is a game, I don't know if this is the game of the week on the channels, but I agree with you, when you said that it was kind of surprising that this game was not flexed because when it comes down to the wild cards, you figure in the NFC East, if the Eagles end up winning the division and then you've got to go for wild cards, this game, the playoff implications are important because, you've got the head to head. So very curious to see if the Giants can go 7-1. Then they have a bye week right after that. And then they get kind of a soft spot to their schedule, if you will. I think they host the Texans out of the bye. So I'm very interested to see. It's a long trip for the Giants. They're going to handle it kind of similar to how they handled their trip to London. And let's see if they bring that energy and that determination. I think they will. I think Brian Dable will have them ready to play. But we'll just see who matches what's better.
Let's look at the predictions aspect of our show here. And normally I would be dishing out my score prediction, but we're going to switch it up for this crossover thanks to our friends at BetOnline. And looking at the odds right now, the number line, the Seahawks are the favorites in this matchup, -3. I look at the odds right now, and that seems about right to me. Seattle's coming off that big win over the Chargers, a pretty solid Chargers team that was 4-2 going into that game. They win on the road. Seattle's won 2 in a row. They've got the number 5 scoring offense in the NFL. I still can't believe that I'm saying that, but they've been doing it week in, week out. They've been putting points on the board. And then you got a Giants team that's 6th in scoring defense, and they can run the football as well as anybody. So I look at those numbers, and I'm expecting that this is going to actually be a little lower scoring games. The way Seattle's defense has played the last 2 weeks as well, contributing to that. I think it's going to be a little lower scoring game, and I expect it is going to be very tight. Again, these teams mirror each other in a lot of ways. I think both coaches, they're not the same guy, but I think they both have some of the same qualities when it comes to building a culture and getting respect from players, being able to get players of multiple personalities, different personalities, to be able to buy in. And we've seen that with the Giants early this season. We've seen it with Pete Carroll with all the moves they made. And they're 4-3 when they weren't supposed to be because he has players believing and buying in. They both want to run the football. They're physical football teams. Their defenses have both improved as time has gone on. And Seattle really struggled early on, but the last 2 games have been great. So I just look at 2 teams, a lot of similarities. They both are in a youth movement, some really good rookies that are playing meaningful snaps for them. So I anticipate that this absolutely is going to be a tight one. And I agree with those BetOnline odds. This does feel like one that, to me, is going to come down to a field goal, maybe a 4 or 5 point game at most. Going to be very close.
I can understand the odds, because, last week the Giants weren't favored either against the Jaguars. And they very nearly, like I said, one more yard and we're talking a different outcome of the game. That said, again, I understand why the Seahawks are favored. They are at home. They've been playing well. That 12th man crowd is something to deal with. The Giants now are going from east to west, which is a little different than going, west to east like they were for London. But you know what? I think at the end of the day, it's going to be more than just a field goal. I'm not so sure that a field goal is going to determine the winner. I could see this game being decided by a touchdown. The Giants, in their one loss this season against Dallas, that was a 1-score game. So they have kept things tight. But I think it's going to come down to whoever's got the ball last. And I could see it being a difference of a touchdown as opposed to a field goal.
We'll find out once we get to Sunday at Lumen Field. Again, one of the more anticipated matchups coming up this weekend, something that nobody could have forecasted before the season started. A lot of people thought the Giants were going to be in the basement in the NFC East. Most people expected the Seahawks to be in the basement in the NFC West, and yet that has not played out for either team as it was expected to, and they're both very much in the playoff hunt now midway through the season. A great chance to create some separation and really solidify playoff standing for both of these teams. Should be an exciting game.
Now BetOnline has the coverage of the lines ahead of this matchup.
Welcome to BetOnline All Access. It's the 6-1 Giants against the Seattle Seahawks this Sunday. Here's Drew Butler, Anthony Becht, and Jonathan Casillas.
The Giants are red hot heading out west to take on the Seahawks. Anthony, right now the Seahawks are 3-point favorites.
Yeah, listen, I think the Giants have been a great story. The Seahawks come in with great balance on offense. Geno Smith's been the comeback player of the year. I'm going to roll and lay those points with the Seahawks.
Somebody has to believe in the Giants. I believe in the Giants. You look like nobody else outside the New Jersey, New York area does. But look, the Giants are for real, and they're going to win this game.
All right, last week the Giants were 3-point road dogs. Again, this week they are 3-point road dogs. I think the Seahawks win and cover, so I'll lay the 3 with Seattle.
Thanks, guys. Get Giants, Seahawks, and all of our NFL action up on our full episode of BetOnline All Access. Check out the BetOnline YouTube channel.
A collective yikes, right? What has become of the Green Bay Packers? The offense simply can't find its rhythm. Aaron Rodgers continues to provide post-loss sound bites, but none of them or the week-to-week adjustments are adding up to Packers wins. Compounding their struggles at 3-4 will be a date with the team seemingly destined for the postseason. That's the Buffalo Bills, and they're clicking on all cylinders and have shown no signs of looking past opponents week to week. Josh Allen is in MVP form, and this game could get ugly early. Peter Bukowski from Locked On Packers and Joe Marino from Locked On Bills have the pregame coverage for the Sunday night tilt.
Here's where I'm at with it, and I guess my theme here is something's got to give, right? You kind of look at this game. It's Aaron Rodgers, it's Josh Allen. For as much as we talked about running the football and defense, it's Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen. And Aaron Rodgers, as I'm sure everybody knows, has won 13 consecutive primetime starts. Josh Allen is the quarterback with the highest win percentage in primetime games in NFL history at a 73% clip. Josh Allen, number 1 in passer rating in NFL history in primetime games. Right behind him, Aaron Rodgers, number 2. You have a really exciting quarterback matchup. You can throw away all the other stuff. Josh Allen's idol growing up was Aaron Rodgers. You listen to Josh talk about things that he's taken from Aaron Rodgers' game, including the little hop step, right? Very unique thing that Aaron Rodgers does. Well, Josh Allen does that, and he came out and said, yeah, I do that because of Aaron Rodgers, and how much he tries to extrapolate from his game, and even, kind of setting to throw left and adjusting to throw right, just like Aaron Rodgers, right? This is his idol. And these guys played before back in Josh Allen's rookie season. If I'm not mistaken, that was a 22-0 win for Green Bay. So I'm sure that after Josh Allen has failed to beat Tom Brady in any of his opportunities, he'd love to get one against Aaron Rodgers, who these Packers, and I know that it's not true about this Packers team, but the Packers are 0-6 all time coming to Buffalo. And so
never
that's
won in
why
Buffalo. The only team they have not beaten on the road in the NFL.
something's got to give, right? Something's got to give here. I think the Packers defense gives them a chance. I just don't have much faith in the Packers on offense. Can they embrace kind of what we talked about? Run the ball, clock control, quick passing game, hit some explosive plays maybe in the play action game. Can they embrace that type of game? And if they do, is it enough to limit Josh Allen and the Bills on offense? I think it's a tough script for Green Bay. I think they need things to go right for themselves. I think the takeaways are going to come, but they haven't come with consistency. 5 in 7 games, only 2 interceptions. I'm sure that Aaron Rodgers being a double-digit underdog is going to be a talking point, and it should be. It should be something on the minds of people, but it's not something new for this Bills team this year. They've had the disrespected opponents all year long, starting in week 1, where the Bills were favored against the Rams at SoFi Stadium when they're the Super Bowl champions. The Bills won 31-10. Yeah. It was the biggest underdog line of Mike Tomlin's coaching career. The Bills won 38-3. And just the last time we saw the Bills play, Patrick Mahomes was an underdog at home for the first time in his career. The Bills covered the spread and won 24-20. I think all that stuff matters, but I have the Bills 27-17 in this one.
Okay, very interesting because I have a very similar number in my mind, and I picked that score before for the Packers, only the other way, but not for this game. It's a number that I like a lot. But so, look, this is a situation for Green Bay where you mentioned the best way to defend the Bills is to kitchen sink. This has to be a kitchen sink game for Green Bay, offensively, defensively. I've been saying I need to see the sense of urgency for this team. They need to call plays on offense like Aaron Rodgers is not their quarterback. They need to call plays like Ryan Tannehill is their quarterback. Create a little trickery. Do some interesting things. Like I want the Northwestern against Ohio State playbook. That's what I want. Like find some interesting ways to get from point A to point B offensively. And then on defense, it's going to have to be the same sort of thing. So I look at what this team was last year in the games where they played down to their opponents, which was far too regularly for my taste. Games against the Browns, games against the Ravens. The defense didn't show up in the way that they needed to. But in the big games, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray on a Thursday night with no receivers for the Packers. They go in to that field, no Devontae Adams, no Allen Lazard, no MVS, and they win a game against Arizona. I think this team will come to play. The Bills are going to win, but I think it's a game that is a little bit closer than that. I think 27-20 is the number. I think the Packers cover, but in a game that isn't quite that close, if that makes sense. I think it'll be a close game at halftime, and then in the second half, it will just be clear that the Bills are the better team. I think that is the best case for the Packers, but I don't know how you can have a lot of faith in their ability to score enough points to hang with Josh Allen and the Bills with time to prepare and time to rest, with the Packers coming into a stretch of multiple road games in a row. It's a brutal stretch coming off the London game. And then, having to go on the road. So it's not great for the Packers looking at 3-5, but I think that's unfortunately where their season is headed.
Peter, they gave the Packers a London game into 3 straight on the road?
London game, home game, 3 straight on the road. But they had the choice. Sauce Gardner, by the way, interestingly knew this. And Robert Saleh, all week was going, they could have chosen to bye after London. They chose to play us, even though they didn't choose to play the Jets. Right. But that becomes a convenient talking point, and the Jets clearly knew that. So just an interesting thing. Yeah, they have to be an exhausted football team right now.
Yeah, that was scheduled for the homecoming in high school, right? You need the win. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. Didn't think of that component, but I did appreciate this conversation, Peter. Always a pleasure getting a chance to catch up with you and talk about these 2 football teams and a lot on the line every week. It's a week-to-week league, and the Bills have a lot to prove the rest of the way, and so do the Packers. So a good one in store on Sunday night. 2 really outstanding quarterbacks in prime time. It'll be a can't-miss football game.
And BetOnline has the coverage for the lines ahead of this matchup.
Welcome to BetOnline All Access. It's the Packers and Bills this Sunday night. Here's Drew Butler, Anthony Becht, and Jonathan Casillas.
In 234 career games, Aaron Rodgers has never been a double-digit underdog. Anthony, that changes this weekend. The Packers are 11-point underdogs to the Bills.
I mean, is there a better analytics statistic than that? That's got to lead me to somewhere. I can't bet against that. I'm going to take the Packers and those points.
Well, hopefully we get to see the Aaron Rodgers show and not what we've been seeing, the rerun of the Josh Allen show every single week this year. Maybe they don't win, but I think they keep it closer than 11-9.
Is this a passing of the torch? Buffalo, top ranked in total offense and total defense, Super Bowl favorites. This is going to be a blowout. Let's go Buffalo, lay the 11 with the Bills.
Thanks, guys. Get Packers, Bills, and so much more on our full episode of All Access. Check out the BetOnline YouTube channel.
Now, it can be tough to train your brain to stay in problem-solving mode when faced with a challenge in life. But when you learn how to find your own solutions, there's no better feeling, and that's where BetterHelp can help you. A therapist can help you become a better problem solver, making it easier to accomplish your goals no matter how big or small. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists anytime you want. Whatever you're faced with, therapy can help you overcome it. Visit BetterHelp.com today. That's BetterHelp.com today. Cincinnati has certainly taken its sweet time getting the 2022 season on track, and a division game against the struggling Cleveland Browns could further help the cause. However, with Jamar Chase now dealing with an injury, it'll fall on the supporting cast to step up and provide Joe Burrow with consistency to notch the Bengals' third straight victory. Cleveland has put all of their franchise eggs into the questionable Deshaun Watson basket. He won't be suiting up this weekend, and for all of the name cachet on both sides of the ball, the Browns are riding a 4-game losing streak after a 2-1 start this year. Jeff Lloyd from Locked On Browns joins James Rapian and Jake Lisco for Locked On Bengals to provide the Monday night matchup insights.
All right, guys, we need to wrap up with some predictions here. I know it's early in the week, Monday Night Football. These teams haven't practiced yet. The schedules get pushed, but here we are. This is what we do on Crossover Thursday, sponsored by Prize Picks, as we get into some predictions for the football game. Jeff, I'm going to start with you.
Football game.
With Jacoby Brissett starting with the defense being what it's been, with this Denzel Ward coming off the concussion protocol and the words exchanged between these teams, all these stories, all these matchups we've talked about. Which way do you see this game going?
Well, I mean, it's difficult to say I think the Browns are going to win this game, but I think there's a lot of guys in this locker room that understand there will be changes that will come within the next 12 hours of this game if this game doesn't go right. If this team goes to 2-6, Kareem Hunt will be gone. They'll trade him. They'll take the pick. They know this relationship is not going further. There'll be teams out there that feel Kareem Hunt can be a great value to them down the stretch. Jack Conklin is another player who could easily be out of here. Does not have a contract for next year. The Browns feel they have somebody that they would like to see if he is the inevitable replacement for Jack Conklin. So, I mean, for the Browns, it's like hunker down time. It's, basically, it's in. This is it. I mean, and we heard last week, with Myles Garrett, but things seem like they're going better. That's great. And for the most part, the defense showed a lot better against Baltimore. But game wasn't won, and went to the locker room, and words were exchanged, and guys felt their basically said and got off their chest their displeasure with how things are going. So this is it. I mean, the fact that you're going into this and it's no David Njoku, again, early in the week, so our apologies to everybody listening. We don't have nearly the information we would need. Wyatt Teller, I'm not sure if Wyatt Teller is going to be back this week, so the Browns will be down a man there, although, Froholt filled in last week, did a nice job. So the Browns are down guys on the offensive side of the ball. They're already to their third string middle linebacker. Granted, it's a veteran like Deion Jones. This will be his first extensive playing time. But, for me, it's really hard for me to predict a Browns victory at this point. I mean, the Bengals offense is coming in, white hot off a monster week last week. The Browns would have to play small ball basically to, make Joe Burrow, basically in the three amigos at the wide receiver position spectators. And then even still in that respect, you're relying on a Browns defense that's been extremely, extremely inconsistent to this point. I hope for them that, we can get it to at least, 3-5. So there's still more talking points to be had during the bye week and going further until Deshaun Watson comes back. But this team, it just feels like this team has had a lot of opportunities, where Lucy basically pulled the ball away from Charlie Brown trying to kick the extra point.
It's the story of the Browns franchise to some degree. And James, what do you think? I'm not going to get into what I think about the Browns franchise because I'll probably make somebody on some side of the aisle upset. That's not the goal here. The goal here is to talk football. So, James, let's go to you for your prediction.
Yeah, look, it's early in the week, and I don't have a great feel for this game yet. And so this may change, Locked On Bengals listeners, so stay tuned. That said, the Bengals are favored according to BetOnline. But just looking at these teams, because I'm not just going to roll with the favorite to roll with the favorite. Joe Burrow is playing out of this world right now. And it's been the past 2 games, maybe a little bit more if you want to say that, the last quarter of the Ravens game. But really the past 2 games, it's looked like, oh, man, this is, you want to talk Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow's inching up in that conversation. And he might not be there yet, but the past 2 weeks, he certainly has looked that elite. And so it's just hard for me to bet against him, especially when he knows he hasn't beat the Browns, especially when this Bengals team knows they need to get a division win, and both teams are shorthanded and they have their issues, and it's going to be tough. This isn't going to be some Joe Burrow throwing it all over like he did with the Falcons. It's not going to be that. It's going to be a hectic environment. First Energy is going to be lit on Halloween, but I think that the Bengals are going to counterpunch at the right time because the Browns are going to have some punches in them because they are desperate, like Jeff said. I think they'll counterpunch at the right time and they'll get one. I'm probably going to change the score. I'm literally just throwing out like 26-23, 23-20, something in that range where, I think that Burrow leads them downfield late and they find a way to get a big victory. Kind of like how Miami was close in the third quarter and then suddenly it pulled away and it didn't look close. I don't think it'll be that, but it'll be kind of that same game script where it's ugly, but the Bengals find a way, and then Joe Burrow's talking with national media after the game.
Yeah, so much for the Bengals this year in terms of the results has hinged on how they've started games, even when they won some of those lopsided games against the Jets and against the Browns and against the Jets and the Dolphins.
No.
It wasn't always pretty at the beginning. I think it was against the Jets. But to me, like I said last week, and like I said earlier in this show, the game script is going to matter a lot here. If the Browns are able to start with the ball, start running, get an early lead, and lean on their running game for the entire game and get the Bengals into a situation where Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney can pin their ears back and get after Joe Burrow, then it could be a much more difficult game. Whereas the last few weeks, we've seen the Bengals totally change their offense, right? Get out of under center altogether, get rid of these under center shotgun tells. And like I said in our film review episode on Locked On Bengals, you're seeing teams not screaming downhill because they know a run is coming, or dropping out and not respecting play action because they know a pass is coming based on the formation. So whether the Bengals can continue to do that and keep the defense honest with shotgun running from Joe Mixon is going to be interesting to me. And the other thing that we need to keep an eye on, because it is early in the week, and I'm just putting a little bit of caution out there, is Jamar Chase, and we'll see how he bounces back from that hip injury that he seemed to aggravate last week against the Falcons. And we don't have an injury report yet, but just something I'm watching because we've seen what happens with the Bengals when they lose T. Higgins and they've gone to just Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd. These 3 receivers really do feed off each other, and I think that matters a lot. Jeff, any closing thoughts that you want to get out there?
It's just that this, I mean, look, it's going to be a fun one. Obviously the, excitement of everything Monday Night Football, you throw in the fact that it's Halloween and, it'll certainly be the Muni lot should lead for a good time, which should lead to a pretty fired up crowd. And the thing is going to be, is it going to be a fired up crowd in exuberance, or is it going to be a fired up crowd looking for maybe some heads to roll, as you have a special teams coach, a defensive coordinator that really, haven't been close to even consistent this year. A lot of people want to put stuff on Stefanski. Nothing's going to change for Coach Stefanski. They're waiting to get Stefanski paired with Deshaun Watson, but a lot of changes could possibly happen if the Browns can't pull this one out. So it's certainly a big one. And, you'd say week 8, obviously, games start to get bigger at this point, but could be a lot more riding here for the Cleveland Browns, certainly.
Week 8 could separate teams into buyers and sellers ahead of the November 1st trade deadline, which can make for season-defining wins and losses this weekend. Each and every week, we'll continue to bring you all of the insight and analysis from across our Locked On network. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Jordan Black, And this has been NFL Key Predictions.